Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Barnes Dubai podcast. Today, we're here to learn more about one of our renowned senior client advisors for real estate in Dubai, Daniel Spencer. Hi, Daniel. How are you today?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm here so you can tell me everything that you know about Dubai and real estate. As you know, I'm in marketing, so I barely know anything.
Yeah.
So I would like to hear more of your expertise and your thought process on it. But firstly, I would really like to know what made you come to Dubai.
Sure. Okay. So Dubai wasn't somewhere that was really on my radar until a couple of years ago. And it was actually my daughter talking about it that sort of got that interest going. From the point of view of some of her school friends' parents were buying property here. And it was conversations that sort of started like that, really, and the whole thing sort of grew quite organically. And that kind of piqued an interest. So started looking into the market and seeing, what the advantages were and so on. Obviously, there's lots. So I mean, that's how it all kind of began. And then I think that became more pressing as the rental market in the UK changed. The second ownership of homes has changed there, and those conditions aren't really as favourable as they used to be for investors. So it looked like the right time. If we were going to do something, then that was the time to start doing it.
So do you believe that you came here just in the right time? Is there even a right?
Well, that's a good question, right? I think if you ask any investor, they will always say that they didn't get in at the right time. There was always a better time to get in, right? Okay, so if we had to pick something, then you would maybe want to have bought in 2008, but for the benefit of hindsight and all of that. So it's not really about it being a right time. It's about kind of understanding the market. Yes, you've got to take notice of what's happened in the past, but past performance obviously doesn't suggest what future performance would be. So you need to have an understanding of supply and demand in the market and what's driving the market forward. But no, I wouldn't say I got in at the optimum time at all. I was fairly late to the party in my eyes. But then when we look at the market now, there are still huge opportunities. Just to give you an example, I mean, in terms of price per square foot globally, Dubai currently sits somewhere between 14th and 16th most affordable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So some people might view Dubai as being expensive. Typically, that would be people that have lived here for a long time.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But when you compare it to places like Monaco, New York, London, Paris, Dubai is still, I wouldn't say it was cheap, but it's cheap by comparison.
Okay. So apart from the price differences that you just mentioned, what would you say is the main difference in Dubai?
For people living here or coming here as investors?
Both.
Oh, okay. So in terms of people living here, I can't really see a comparison with anywhere else. Everything that the city has to offer and the grand plans moving forward for 2030, 2040 and so on, it's going to be an incredible city. And if anywhere's going to do it, it's going to be here.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds ambitious, right? But when you look at what's been achieved so far, it's entirely believable. So in terms of quality of life, what are we ranked currently? Second most safe city in the world.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive, right? And quality of life, I mean, the weather obviously counts for a huge part of that.
Definitely does.
Which you don't really notice, you take for granted, right? Until you leave.
Yeah, and then you want to come back.
And then you don't really want to get off the plane. You just want to turn around and come back.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, there's obviously the quality of life is a huge bonus for a lot of people. Education is very, very rapidly becoming a priority for the city. More schools are being built and are planned to be built, which is a reflection of the volume of people moving here and starting families or bringing their families. So for people moving here, it's hugely attractive. It's got everything to offer. For investors, I mean, it's a really, really good place to invest in property, obviously. What I would say about that is you'd be looking at sort of net returns in the buy-to-let market. Long-term rentals, you're achieving round about sort of 5 to 8% net return on investment, which is very good. And then if you had a property that you were to, let's say, put into short-term rentals, so the Airbnb market, you can be achieving between sort of 8 and 12% quite comfortably. Yeah, there are areas that will give bigger returns, but, generally that's what you would expect. So, and then the capital appreciation on top. So as we know, we've had some big price climbs in the last couple of years. I think we're maybe going to see a slight slowdown. It won't be much, but I think we're very, very comfortably going to see 10% capital appreciation this year. Yeah.
Interesting, because many people, like you said that, many people are actually thinking about that. Like even 3 years ago, they were talking about the fact, well, yeah, it's not going to go on forever, but it kept going on, and it seems like it's not going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of people, obviously we can look at examples, and people like to talk about the big wins. Okay?
Yes.
So if you looked at a project like Lana from Omniat, these are exceptional properties. Now, they were sold 2 to 3 years ago off plan. Even 2-bed apartments, they are now selling for double what those original buyers paid for them. Now, we're not obviously going to see 100% gain over a 2-year period with every single project.
Of course.
But having said that, the city is still very affordable, so there is still a lot of room for growth. And the most recent bubble index chart, which is a way of analysing how much risk there is of a property market bubble. Dubai is very, very low down on that chart, which is a direct reflection of the amount of demand that there is in the city.
Yeah, it makes you feel safe, no?
Yeah, absolutely.
With your money as well, not just with the safety of the city.
For an investor, that gives confidence.
Exactly.
So that's really important, yeah.
Okay. So I believe you covered in there on the fact of how secure the market is.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you think is really important for people to know who might be afraid to put their money in Dubai right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me personally, coming here and looking for a property to buy and connecting with agencies and dealing with them, it's a difficult process. And I think a lot of potential buyers get put off for a number of reasons. I would say, firstly, you need to have an understanding of what is involved with a property purchase here. It's different to how it works in Europe, but it's also quite simplified. So having an understanding of how that works is really important. That will, in turn, give you confidence. And then I think the other really, really important thing is that you have got to be speaking to somebody that you feel you can trust. There's obviously a huge amount of real estate agencies in Dubai, as we all know, and it is a fiercely competitive market where some of these guys will do very unscrupulous things to close deals. So you've got to have a good understanding of who you're talking to. The way in which you would measure that is by how you're treated as a client. So to give you an example, I think I probably spoke to about 24 different brokerages when we were first looking at buying a property. What I found was that only 2 of those agents actually asked me what I wanted and what I was trying to achieve. The rest of them, it was a case of, it was quite simplified questioning. Are you looking for an apartment? Are you looking for a villa or townhouse? And how much do you want to spend? Effectively. And then what you would find, I noticed after a while, was that I felt like I was being steered in the direction of what suited the broker as opposed to what suited me. And obviously, if we're talking about off-plan properties, which this was in this case, you'll find that those commissions will vary from one developer to another. So you will quite often be steered in the direction of the developer who's currently paying the highest commission. So this is a case of the broker not acting in the client's interest, but really acting in their own interest.
How do clients nowadays find a good broker?
Yeah.
How did you find a good broker, or is that why you became one?
Yeah, no, I did. I did by chance.
Okay.
Yeah, I did by chance. So her name was Sophie. She's quite well known in Dubai.
Okay.
But she has a very, very solid reputation of client care, and she gets a lot of repeat business from referrals and clients, investors coming back and looking to buy property from her repeatedly. Now, obviously, I didn't know this at the time. I hadn't met her. It had taken place over a few phone calls. But I knew straight away that the questions that she was asking, she was acting in my best interest and not in her own. So if you feel that there's no interest in you and what you're about and why you're interested in doing this, then I would say that's probably the biggest red flag. Yeah, that's probably the key thing to look out for. And in terms of, who do you trust? Obviously, everybody can come to Barnes. It's an international company with 145 offices globally, and that's growing on a regular basis. And obviously the reputation precedes them. So yeah, obviously I would have complete confidence in talking to us. And there's a couple more. There's more than a couple more, to be fair. But, there's a few people out there. But you do have to do your own research and do some due diligence, try and get reviews, try and find out what people are saying about that particular brokerage. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, to be honest, but it does take a bit of time.
I wanted to ask you, as I really know very little about it.
Yeah.
How would I, and you know that I work in marketing and I'm not really knowledgeable about the material and everything.
Yeah.
How would I be able to buy a property? What is my funnel? How do I go through by it? If you would have to guide me, what would you tell me?
So the first thing that I would be asking you is why you wanted to buy a property.
Well, I personally, if I wanted to buy a property right now, it would be for to be fair, not to pay rent, if I'm being fully honest.
Sure, yeah.
And because it's actually going to be something of my own. So I'm investing in a long term.
Yeah, okay. So then, you would be a homeowner.
Yeah.
And then obviously, the normal things come into play in terms of location and size and how much cash you want to allocate to it and that kind of thing. But in terms of the actual process, if you were buying something that was already built to live in now, we call that the secondary market. So you would be looking obviously for a property, and there are various channels that you can use for it. There's some very good websites, Property Finder, Bayut, and Dibizzle are growing their side of that business as well now. So you could use those channels to find the property that you wanted. You would then connect with the broker that's advertising that property. They will be acting for the seller. Okay. So you will talk to the broker directly. And then if you like the property and once you've agreed a price, then you'll be asked to complete a form, okay, which is then submitted. And it's a very simple process from there on in. Yeah. You would simply go to Dubai Land Department and complete your purchase there in the office. It's pretty straightforward. If you're using a mortgage, that's pretty easy as well.
Okay. Do you think that process is easier here than in other desirable cities?
It's quicker.
Okay.
Yeah. It's streamlined and it's centrally governed. So it's, for the most part, it's a digitized process. So all of the title deeds, for example, are held in one place. And it's a pretty fast process. Yeah.
What are the different channels of investment? If the idea of buying a property is not being a homeowner, but actually investing in it. Yeah. Can you talk more about that?
Sure, yeah. So the typical sort of investment channels, probably the one thing that people are familiar with in Dubai is the off-plan market. Okay, so this is you effectively giving a deposit to a developer that are building a project, and this will typically take 2 to 3 years to come to fruition, and we call that handover at the end, when that's then given to you, the buyer. You would pay a deposit, tends to be around about anywhere between 10 and 20%. You would pay a 4% fee to the land department to register that property to you.
Okay.
And then you would pay in stages throughout the construction process to the developer. Now, the system that's in place now means that that money actually goes into an escrow account, which is safe and it's separate from the developer.
What does that exactly mean?
So an escrow account is an account that the developer doesn't have access to.
Okay.
Okay, and then the developer has to prove that they've hit construction milestones, and then that account will release the next tranche of funds to the developer to carry on with that build process. So your money's safe in that regard. Now,
Okay.
typically what will happen is the market appreciates over time, the value of your initial purchase is increasing as well. Okay.
So does that mean that if I'm scared that developer might not finish a project, that's not really a reasonable
No.
scare to have in Dubai?
Yeah, it used to be, and there's a lot of horror stories about people, having bad experiences.
I can imagine.
Yeah, that's all changed now. So
Okay.
it's, but having said that, you still need to be wary about, who you're dealing with. We like to deal with, some of the biggest developers that have solid track records. But by the same token, there's also new developers coming into Dubai that have track records from other countries that are doing a good job.
So does that mean that it's actually not really a reasonable scare to have in Dubai?
Yeah, it used to be a concern, and people have had bad experiences in the past. But the situation now with escrow accounts means that, that's not really a valid concern. You've still got to do your due diligence with regard to the developer that you're working with. Obviously, the big ones that everybody knows and been around for a long time, there's not a lot of risk there. But possibly with some of the newer ones, might not have a track record at all. Some of them may have a track record of delivering on time in other countries, which is fine, but yet to be proven here. So, but you can analyse the risk in that regard and make an informed decision.
Okay. If I was to invest, and let's say that you are my advisor and I choose everything right, because I have you by my side to guide me through the process, what are the returns that I can see throughout the time?
Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of if you were, let's say, buying a property to put into the rental market, which is a popular option for investors, they want to obtain a property and then generate a cash flow from that property. So let's say we had an investor that wants to rent this property on a long-term basis. You would be looking at somewhere between 5 and 8% per year return on investment net, which is obviously very good. Bear in mind also there's no tax to pay. And then if you put that same property into a short-term rental market, so like an Airbnb market, something like that, then you would obviously get a much higher return, somewhere between sort of 8 and 12%. Higher is possible, but it depends to be based mainly on area and a few other different variables. But from that point of view, those are very good returns. They're solid. And then obviously we've got the capital appreciation as well. So as the market rises, the value of your property then rises in line with that. So that's another attractive quality about investing here.
What are the things that if I start searching by myself about investing in Dubai or buying a property as a homeowner, what are some things that you think I should know that are not going to be that easy to find or not going to be really surface information that people very often tend to put aside?
Yeah. I think it's a case of a lot of people get to the point where they've done so much research. There's this phrase which is paralysis through analysis, which you might have heard of. So people doing so much research that they actually get to the point where they're overwhelmed with information, and without the experience of being here or talking to people that are here, it can be difficult to kind of separate that information and find what's the best solution for you. You would typically look at, you would have to have an understanding of areas. I think it's going to be absolutely key. One of the issues with that is that those areas are developing quickly and currently changing. So if we look at a situation that we currently have where, downtown where we are now, where Burj Khalifa is and Dubai Mall, obviously a hugely popular part of the city, especially with the holiday let market. Now at the moment it's a very, very high performer and the airport's close by. However, what we're now seeing is that the southern end of Dubai is being heavily developed. So we've got this amazing new airport that's going to be coming, which is going to open up the whole of that area now. Now areas there such as Dubai South, currently very, very affordable, some of the lowest prices in Dubai, but we're going to see some very, very significant capital appreciation there. So you have to have an understanding of the current areas, what they're about, who they appeal to, how they perform. But for long-term investment strategies, we can also be looking at the areas that are going to be heavily developed going forward and what that's going to mean geographically for people coming here. So we're going to have a city that's its orientation is going to be very different in 10 years' time to what we currently see. So you've got to have that knowledge. Yeah.
Do you think it's easier if you're actually already here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very feet on the ground. You can't beat it. Okay. So before buying anything here, first thing I had to do was come and actually see for yourself, because you don't know who you're dealing with. And I guess I'm just kind of the person that, at least the first time round as an investor, you would want to at least see where it is that you're buying, so you can feel as though you've made an informed decision. So being here is very, very helpful. If you're not able to be here, then obviously, there's ways that you could get around that. We do a lot of video conferencing and Zooms from site and that kind of thing with investors.
Is it possible for someone to buy a property while actually not being in Dubai?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Off plan is easier.
Okay.
But yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
Great. So anything else that you believe that I should know, that I should be informed of? Anything else you want to give me an advice on?
I think the thing is, as we all know, and as our sales director quite rightly says, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So yes, do some research. If you don't know, ask. But in terms of, is there anything that you should know that we haven't talked about briefly here? Not specifically, no. You just need to know effectively, I guess, that you're talking to the right people. And there's a few of us around, so we shouldn't be too hard to find. But just don't jump in with both feet, I guess, until you've had a few conversations at least. Yeah.
Well, I'm lucky to have you and many other people here.
We're lucky to have you.
Yeah, thank you. So let's just hope that everyone else is going to be lucky enough to find you guys and to be able to make an informed decision on where they put their money in.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for today, Daniel.
You're welcome, Anna.
And once I learn a bit more, I will probably ask you to come back and teach me some more things about these stuff.
Absolutely, sure.
So I can ask you more profound questions.
Perfect.
But thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
And I'll see you later on.